Now when it comes to Miss Varcia, I feel like this girl has so much damn potential. She looks like she's about to slay when it comes to what she's about to say. But unfortunately, when it comes out of her mouth, it's all a bit of a mess. She's always standing up. She's always interjecting everybody's points. A bit like it's like a 2.0 version of Nunu, but it's a bit more annoying.
Culture, yes, culture. But listen, yes. Can I say my point? No, let me say my point. Give me the way that I want to be treated. I don't care. If you get up, But I'm talking about me. Let me finish.
Hey guys, it's Marad. I hope you guys are all doing well today. So we have another debate in terms of cultures and in terms of races that were really just discussed in this episode. I did find it quite interesting to say the least, but there were a few things that I did not like and a few things that I did like. First and foremost, it seems to me that there was definitely an anti-black American culture rhetoric that was most definitely doused all over this particular episode, and the black American culture was just easily dismissed, which I find quite shocking, and they were all categorized as hood. Just does not make sense to me. I feel like Ewan is a very good character in terms of the fact that he likes to address or interrelate different stories as other people do, such as Romeo and Juliet, which is probably a good story as well in relation to two different cultures and so forth. But this whole idea of saying black people were a little bit oppressed, it's these small little comments that he's making what I feel like it's not good for his image that he's trying to reflect and portray within these episodes. Because in the last episode he was rolling his eyes, and in this episode, you know, he made this particular comment because we damn well know if his parents were just being shot in the streets and the people who shot them were not being sentenced for what they should be and they were running around free.
And we're just at a time where the black person in America has been a little bit oppressed, and I think black people as a culture are doing a great job of like lifting themselves up.
And we can most definitely see that, unfortunately. So I feel like comments like those are, you know, not well thought comments that he's probably making, and I feel he needs to really just address them and think about what he's saying sometimes, because they can come across as a bit of a ignorant statement to make. And you know, being a white male, that stereotype of an ignorant white male is something that can easily come through. That in itself I keep picking up on, so I thought let me just address that. But other than that comment, I do feel like he was making a lot of great points in terms of what is about culture, and you know, as I said, interrelating different stories, and it's very clear as so was Rashan as well. And I do feel like he really expressed himself into what he is, whether he's British or whether he's obviously lives in New York, whether he's Jamaican and so forth, and what he likes and what he's not. Again, I do like the way they express their points. It's just very coherent. We have Henny discussing the idea of, she just kind of, it was confusing to me because in my opinion I thought that she was a black American, but you know, she's saying that she's Nigerian, that black Americans are all hood. So that feel like that form of inward racism and that form of categorization of all black people is something that I did not agree with at all. I find it quite sad that you would see them all as hood, maybe because that's what you've been brought up in, but that doesn't necessarily mean that is what everybody is. And you know, saying that South Americans, saying that southern parts of America, you know, you have all the more gentleman type. Again, I feel like it's a form of an ignorance as well, because you obviously have hillbillies, rednecks, and etc., whatever. So I just feel like, you know, you're not really being aware of that, and there's this rift. Now, when it comes to Miss Varcia, I feel like this girl has so much damn potential, and you know, it's not every day stand up. It's not every day try to get into people's points. Why are you standing up? Why are you moving your hands like that, saying let me finish? Like, just can't. You're doing too much. You're doing the most when it comes to that, and it is actually very annoying. As well as the fact that the audio issues are still consistent, which is something that I don't like. Okay, I remember I did say, you know, 7 days, it was a bit tough and so forth, but you know, the world is tough. It is what it is. If you're going to come out with a show and so forth, everything needs to be pitch perfect, and this wasn't pitch perfect. I had to keep on alternating the volumes of my sound, and I don't really have time for that. So that in itself was also very annoying. What I do like about what Henny was doing is that she was very vigilant over other people in the cast who were not speaking. Like, she wanted to voice concerns of Jalissa, she wanted to voice concerns of Ewan or other people. She wanted other people to speak because she wanted to try and involve everybody into the discussion. I noticed her doing that more than anybody else in the show in that particular episode, which is kind of quite hard to do, and I did appreciate that because we were able to hear from other people, because she made sure that they were valued. So I do understand that. I do feel like the point of white privilege was most definitely an important point to make. I don't feel like Ewan himself should be sorry for it unless he's obviously partaking in it. Obviously we don't know that, but at the same time I do feel like it was an important point to make. I'm glad that Jalissa and Nee made it, and I feel like I'm glad in a sense, and in a somewhat of a way I'm glad Nee kind of pressed on the matter to Ewan, and to everybody else as well, not just him.
Because I feel like you didn't struggle the way I did. Like you just did it. We're not from the same struggle. So
What does that mean?
No, so let's say So let's say me and you have a child. We get together. If the child looks like you, the child has no problem in life. If the child
Admit to the fact that it exists. Can you admit to the fact that white privilege exists?
I think it does exist, but I
think
don't. But I
does
don't.
it exist?
I think.
And obviously being aware of it, like everybody's obviously aware of it, and well, not everybody, but I do feel like black people face it far more worse, and that's probably why they were pressing on that matter, and why people like Jalissa and Nee were obviously quite irritated, because it affects them more than anyone. So I just feel like that in itself is a very important issue that I'm glad that was raised. It wasn't set out in clear terms, it was just rubbed on, but I feel like it was. I feel like Idris also made a very good point in terms of cultures.
Our African culture is now more acceptable. Everybody wants to be African. So now my mindset now is like, I see more African weddings. I go to more African baby showers and stuff. I too want to be just like that. So now I pursue more African women.
The fact that when it comes to his own culture, when he was young, it wasn't seen as popular in fashion or that nonsense, and that he was embarrassed to be that. And I feel like Franny was also regurgitating that form of information that Idris was saying. They're kind of bouncing off each other, where the Haitians weren't seen as good people back in school as well. So I feel like that was a very crucial matter that needed to be discussed. The whole idea of society deterring, society accepting, the whole idea that can change people's mindsets. I feel like that was most definitely a useful point to make, and I'm glad Idris and Franny kind of made that. And I like the idea of Franny kind of pressing on the matter that we should be okay to opening ourselves to different cultures, different people, and be accepting of cultures. It can be a bit hard, a bit of friction, but we should be open to that. So I feel like that was a great point that she was made as well. So a lot of people in the cast were really on point with certain stuff that they were saying, even Varcia as well, in relation to the fact that her parents might have a different, and her ancestors are very different to ancestors in America who are black, because they've been through slave trade, they've been through civil rights, and her parents haven't. So therefore she's bringing the really psyche into the mindsets and how it can be very different. So I do like the way Varcia was saying that point as well, which is obviously very important.
But I'm not done though. But I'm saying that you guys went through slavery, and then you guys went through Civil Rights Act, and then beyond that. So I'm just trying to say my parents didn't have to go through the Civil Rights Act. In Africa, everyone's black. So like it's more so us competing against ourselves. And here
this whole idea though of just complete ignorance, of the ignorance of completely ignoring the African American culture, and that it's not existing. Like, how did jazz music come up? How did rock and roll music come up? House music from Chicago? Like, let's not get it twisted. African American culture is present, it is living, and it is most definitely rife. So that in itself I find very confusing, or whether you want to say it's black culture, it is most definitely there. The ignorance of saying that it's not there is, to me, it felt quite shocking. I do feel like there was a lot of shouting, unfortunately. There's that lack of construction that Bkchat Nyc normally have. They don't normally shout like this when it comes to stuff. Obviously this topic must have rubbed people the wrong way, but a lot of people were shouting, and that construction was obviously missed, that I did like. But overall, this was my smaller review. Ewan, just watch out with your certain points what you're making. Varcia, you made a good point about the answers and so forth, but stop standing up, stop getting in people's way, stop interjecting, because it is damn well annoying, because I feel like you have so much potential, but it's just simply not being articulated in a streamlined, good way. Idris made a great point about how society ignores certain cultures, sees them as beneath, and then they're suddenly in fashion, so for people who are more accepting. That was an important point to make as well. Jalissa and Nee, I'm glad you kind of press on the white privilege matter, because that needs to be interjected to some extent. I do like the fact that Franny was saying that we should be open to more cultures. The whole idea of Henny trying to involve the people, I like that as well. But her ignorance of saying that all black cultures doesn't exist, so forth, and that all the black Americans are hood and so forth.
I just wouldn't.
But not all black Americans are hood though.
No, that's that.
Yeah.
I said that.
Okay.
I said, so, like, they have the southern ones who come from like a respectable culture, and they have the
But
people
even
that,
the American ones is what I'm saying, like, aren't all hood.
in my opinion.
But that's what she's saying though. But she's saying, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off, but like American can be southern, but also you could also be hood as well. I feel like, but I think too, you're talking about northern, not specifically hood, but you could be southern and you can be northern. But I feel like since we're in the northern area, like we know that you could be hood. I feel like when you move to when you travel to southern, it's a totally different Like it's a totally different like environment.
You know, this type of talk just really just, you know, you're spewing out ignorance that makes no sense. The whole idea of dismissing the black culture completely from America and that there isn't no culture. The rift between Africans and African Americans, that, you know, that rift does not be needed because you don't see white people doing that. You don't see Arab people doing that. You don't see that there's no this distinguishment between Arab Americans and, you know, British Arabs and Australian Arabs, or like, you know, Arabs from the Middle East born bred. There's no like a vast distinguishment, or even if there is, we don't, obviously there is, obviously there's going to be a difference between, but we don't consistently talk about it, or, you know, make sure that there's a divide between us. Absolutely no, like that makes no sense at all. But all just all the same, we should not be making a rift between black Americans and blacks from Africa. That in itself makes no sense. Like obviously there's difference between everyone depending on what you've grown up on, but why are you constantly talking about it as if there's a huge massive difference? Because as far as I'm concerned, white people don't do it, Arabs don't do it, so I don't understand where that's particularly coming from. And I feel like that in itself is a tool, a catalyst that has been used to cause even more division, anger and frustration between people that's not really needed. Bottom line, moral of the story is the whole idea of dismissing black culture is completely ridiculous. The whole idea of saying marginalizing black people, saying they're all hood and so forth, even more ridiculous. Doesn't matter if you've grown up in a hood area, it doesn't mean they all are. That in itself I did not agree with at all. This was my smaller review. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think about particular characters such as Ewan, such as Nii, Jalissa, Varcia, did she annoy you? Did you like her? Idris and his points, Franny and so forth. What do you think about the whole idea of dismissing black culture? Do you agree with it? Do you not? What about the rift between Americans who are black and then Africans as well? You know, should there be a rift? Why do people always make this rift all the time? I don't feel like there is. There's no rift between other races. The whole idea of, you know, Southern Americans, the lack of acknowledgement for, you know, rednecks and hillbillies and all that kind of nonsense as well. Or not nonsense, but as in like all that kind of stuff that wasn't really pressed on. Let me know what you guys think. Hit me up on my Instagram and my website. Subscribe if you guys like my reviews. Thank you guys for watching, and I will most definitely catch you guys soon.